Yep. And I'm still picking out an army to make use of this.
Cool, cool. All right. So the plan for today, I'm going to be playing some games with Hadres. You will be in Discord, so I won't be looking at chat too much, so that we can focus on testing. And we're going to be trying out various forest rules. In the bottom, you can see the first one that we'll be testing. But that's more or less the intro, so feel free to speak once again, Hadres.
Yep. Actually, I can bring the stream up as well so I can see chat.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll be taking a look to see suggestions, but I think at the moment people are still trickling in. So
Yep. In case I need to say, oh, got these infantry here. We want.
all right. In the meantime, I'm gonna get a Bretonia versus Wood Elf build set up, and we'll see how the cheese plays out. Are there any other matchups you're thinking of that are prone for forest camping? I guess vampire counts.
Yeah, vampire counts. Honestly, Norska. Maybe even Skaven.
Skaven, really. Like the Skaven are the ones forest camping, or?
No, what else can forest camp Skaven?
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, cool. So let's see. So this rule set, you can only have 1/3 of your infantry forcing an engagement. So you can have more in the forest as long as nothing is forced. I believe that's how that's interpreted. Yeah, actually, Virtual Magi, a lot of these forest rule proposals are pretty loose when it comes. I know you're memeing, but a lot of the proposals are pretty loose when it comes to restrictions. Most of them really just tackle boxes for the most part.
I don't think this rule even tackles boxes, but let's see.
Oh, like 100% forest boxes, I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think generally most people are okay with kiting into the forest. Ambushes are generally accepted too, but that's been the gray area because it's hard to describe and distinguish it between normal forest camping. So we'll see. Do missile units count as infantry? Only if they're on foot, I presume.
This is correct. Now I need to count my models because elves.
Yeah. Yeah, so usually in this matchup, I go pretty cavalry heavy, and it can go pretty well against boxes in the open field. I'm wondering how much of a difference it'll be, because no one really plays in the forest unless we're testing. So I haven't actually experienced a lot of forest camping in my career.
Wait, I just realized I might not have the right. You know what? I probably have 300 units.
Probably. Yeah,
Probably.
I'm sure it's fine.
Probably.
All right, so the things we're looking out here is, oh, is the lobby broken? That's unfortunate.
Hold on, let me save this army.
Here,
We saved it as A.
well, I'll make a new lobby. Call it Hadres 2. Failed to host game. Wow. Okay, it's up.
You're a failure. Failure, I say.
All right, someone's asking, I think for the purposes of the rules, if a unit has to alter its facing by some arbitrary angle, say 60 degrees, it isn't considered an ambush. Yeah, that could be one way to tackle it. No one's really I think a lot of these, I think they just state ambushes in general, and that's more of an admin thing to decide, or they don't mention ambushes at all, and it's more implicitly allowed. I don't know. There's a lot of takes on it. We're going to be trying out a bunch of different styles. Let's see, so does this rule set have anything that lets me decide not to attack a box in the forest?
It
It says you can't force an engagement.
The attacking rules still apply to you even if I'm in a forest.
Okay, good to know. That's the sketchiest part, because then you can just advance with the box, and that's all.
Like, I have a box. It's just I have 3 infantry units. One of them is in the box. The other 2 are dryads sent to be sacrificed to Horn.
Mm-hmm. All right, more or less good to go. So you're trying to give a definition for the rules, not describe. The current rule, says Nate. I'm having a hard time interpreting that. He's trying to give a definition. Okay, yeah. It's a proposal. Yeah, I think it's good. It's just, it depends on how wordy you want to get with the rules, and that's something to figure out. Hopefully we get a good feel today, as we have 4 different write-ups. We have one from me, it's Dactor FNG, and one from someone in the community, but I forgot who actually proposed the rule, so they will be unnamed. All right. Okay, so you have cavalry and dryad, so you can feel free to attack those, no problem. All right, presumably you got the rest of your army in the forest.
To test the forest rule? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Hey, would you look at that? They are actually in the forest. Who would have guessed? All right. My archers are going to be a lot less effective here too. Let's see, it's a Dirthu box, possibly. I can't see him.
It always makes me laugh that he can hide in the woods. I mean, he is a tree, so yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess. Indistinguishable. Okay, so lucky for me, I do have archers. But is there enough of a threat to force a forest fight? So if your dryads route here, and then I attack you immediately, I guess you're not technically forcing me to fight in the forest, right? So you wouldn't be rule breaking there? Let's see, I guess you have skirmishers too. So your thoughts on forced engagements? If there are skirmishers outside of the forest, is any forest fight truly forced?
Technically, yes. A forest fight in the forest is a forest fight, even if there are skirmishers out of it. With this rule set, however, skirmishers can just do whatever they want. Like, the only limiting factor is the 1/3 infantry.
Yeah.
Other than that, this isn't really a forest rule in my eyes. Now, here's an interesting thing. That dryad routed into the trees.
All right.
The heretic.
Yeah, so instant rule break, I would say. I think a lot of it's interesting because a lot of the times just tournament admins will patch up any more sketchy situations just by thinking about it a bit. So most of the time, a lot of forest, there aren't too many problems. Like technically the no forest camping more or less does its job because of admins. It's just that people who are afraid of getting called out for it just end up not using the forest. Alright, let's see. Okay, so at this point, right, if you have no infantry, and then
I have infantry.
Well, like, you have no infantry outside of the forest, then would that be considered a rule break? Let's see, what does it say?
Well, that's it depends on how... Right now it says unit cards, so that's one of those things where, like, they're still on the field, they're routing, but, you know, they're...
Yeah, it's like... They, like, if they come back too, right, then you're in the clear, so... Honestly, it feels a little bit hard to distinguish with this one. I think with a bit of figuring out, you could still more or less get there though. And technically the monstrous units can freely be in the forest too, because they're not infantry. See. So presumably dryads are off the field now.
But there is a unit of yours in the forest that I may attack.
Yeah. Let's see. Yep, that's a paladin. But yeah, I think with the current setup, even if it is legal, I think we would have a lot of people that would be calling admins about situations like this. Unless it just becomes the norm and then people sort of know what's fine and what isn't. Honestly, I am not sure. I'm thinking after this test we should move on to the other rules and sort of feel those out.
Yep.
But I think this more or less shows the biggest worry about this rule set, I would say.
Yeah, that monstrous and basically anything that's not infantry can be forest boxed.
Yeah. Virtual Magi saying monster units don't really benefit from the forest. I think wood elves.
Wood elf ones do.
Yeah, that's the main problem. It's all the wood elves' fault. Them and their forest mechanics. See, technically, if you're at the edge of the forest, the counterplay would be to move my archers a little bit closer, so that their arrows clip through the trees a little bit more. But I don't think there's anything stopping you going deeper into the forest, except for the attacking rule, really.
Yeah, now the attacking rule, since I'm out of that, I can move in.
Yeah, I think if I was vampire counts though, it would be terrible. Not that they play this matchup super often, but I think that would definitely not work out very well. Yeah, he's saying beastmen kind of benefit. Do what type of benefits do beastmen get in the forest?
Just Strider, and I think they can walk through trees.
I see. Just like slight edge over everything else then.
Orders, swiftly, for the king. Victory is assured. Cut them down. Honor and glory. Withdraw. Swiftly.
At once! Power of life!
Have at 'em.
I just noticed my I have no good place to put the actual forest rule example that we're testing. Maybe I'll close that in between games.
Battle ready.
Honor!
Maybe I should leave it up.
Swiftly!
No,
Now
I think
people-
it should be like maybe left up.
You think it should
The
be
games themselves are just tests.
In her service!
yeah.
Quickly, lads.
See, in the context of a YouTube video, people could just skip so that they can find it again.
Bretagne!
But people on stream will be coming in and they won't know
At once.
which wording we're actually talking about. I'll open it up when we talk about it.
Yeah.
And spare the APM, it's not like these are mega competitive games.
We serve our liege. Right away.
Quickly!
Run! Hero of Bretagne. The lion's will. Post haste. Immediately.
So scared of a huge sword of date coming in.
Peasant bowmen.
Oh, I already like all the sort of days I got were really good.
Infantry.
Yeah, Dirthu's at 3k value.
I missed the second one then. Alright, GG.
GG. And let's see. I'm curious how the yeah, that's unfortunate. The Treekin. There was a right after the Wood Elf DLC. I think there was a period where Treekin were looking really good. I don't know if the change they did during the Rakarth patch affected them, but they seem to be worse now.
Yeah, they got like AP buffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did not do too great that game. Alright, so
Although I
interesting
don't
test.
think I even need them. Like if I cut them, get more, even more Glade Riders Hagbane tips.
Alright, so next one is Tower of Hoeth. This one has a huge forest. Let's see. Which rule set do you
Yes.
want to test out next? You said you liked FNGs?
Yeah.
Let me open that up. Okay, so this is the rule set, guys. Pull that up in the corner. Let's see. It's a huge block of text, but that can more or less be fixed with some formatting later. Do you have the gist of it?
Yep.
All right. Let's see what. Feel free to fill me in. I haven't actually. I forgot to read through all of these. So generally, what's allowed? The attacking rule. You can't force players to attack.
I mean, this is
It's in the forest.
pretty much the same as what Banner has now, but is more expanded, which is yeah, just can't use the forest defensively.
Yeah, they should not
Rule.
take defensive positions in the forest with significant portions of their army. So,
Mhm.
okay. Administrators, I think that more or less works because admins can see when it's getting cheesy. Should consider the map, and okay. So let's see. So if I'm the one attacking here, it says. Let me see the attacking rule. Players may retreat to open field from such units. Okay, so that means even if you're beside a forest, I could decide not to engage. Is how I'm reading that?
Yes. Well, positioned in or directly, yeah, a clearly defined forest terrain. Right, so that prevents the whole wait in a like behind a forest, and the opponent comes in, then you attack them while they're in the forest, and you
Yeah.
get the forest engagement you want.
And then kiting should be fully fine with this.
Yeah, there's nothing you can kite into a forest. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Although once you're defend significant portion. I mean, kite isn't really a defensive position, so yeah, you should be able to kite into the forest as you will.
Okay,
Like,
and
there
I
are-
think it
Go
says
on.
something about significant portions of your army. So I guess if you have if all your skirmishers are outside the forest, and you have like, I don't know, like Durthu chilling in the forest, like at the far end,
Yeah.
would that be significant?
No. Significant portion I would define as majority of the army.
Yeah, I think most people would think of it that way too. So
Not necessarily even majority of the funds, but like when you get into fund counting in terms of majority, it gets a little wonky. But I think majority in terms of units, unit cards.
yeah, okay. Well, so this one, let's see. Yeah, at this point, I guess we look for the biggest use of force.
The thing is, so if we're always going to look for the most, like the faction that can benefit the most from abusing forest, it's going to be Wood Elves every time. Like no way around it.
Yeah. All right.
So that's
let's see.
fine.
So how do we want to? How are you thinking this rule? Like, what is the end game of this? It's most of the time people would just be avoiding fights in the forest if you have your army there. So we can try it out. Essentially, I think the biggest advantage you have here is that your skirmishers can more or less use up their ammo here, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter. So Durthu and probably my caster are in a forest the entire time while the rest of the army skirmishes. And usually when that happens, you can ignore the skirmishers and go after a slower target like Durthu. But since he's in a forest, that's less of an option, and that's the advantage.
Yeah, so that's the thing to test out. I think Bretonia versus Wood Elves is still good for that, since I'm mostly cavalry and relying on reaching your main army, so we'll just get a feel for it. Let's see. Yeah, so in this case, the thing protecting you is that you can choose not to attack a force in a forest. Now, let's see. I think there are situations where, and I think on Pillar of Bone this can come up with Beastmen. If they, I think if they hide units in the forest. Well, I guess that's a defensive position, so maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah, defensive position. Like hiding units in a forest for attack is different. Like there is another thing that we can try on this map after this game where I think Chaos. No, well, maybe. Like Chaos can maybe leave a Hell Cannon in the forest with a halberd to defend it, and that could be strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, it's going to be.
I think that would be a defensive position too, though, right?
Yeah, but it's not a significant portion of the army.
I see. Okay. So it more or less covers itself then. And then the answer of, does the Hell Cannon force me to fight in the forest? The answer is no. Because you could see some people arguing that if there's artillery, like people could argue all artillery forces you to engage it, but I think that's not really a big issue when it comes to people that admin these tournaments. We'll see. Let's see. So attacking rule cannot force players to attack enemy units
Alright.
positioned.
Can do this.
Players may retreat to open field from such units. Okay, so yeah. So
Basically, this is kind of what I was like. What I was talking about is you specifically like deny forest boxes, and then put in the line you don't have to attack a unit that's in a forest. The units in the forest have to attack to fill the attacking rules, so they have to come out. I think that's more or less where the forest rules should probably end.
cool. All right. So
And this
let's
kind
see.
of does that. It's more wordy about it, but like
Yeah,
you said, there
it's
can be
more or
change in
less.
formatting.
Yeah, no boxes, or in this case, defensive formations. The majority of your forces has to be outside the forest, I believe. Players may retreat to open field. Players should not take defensive positions within clearly defined forest terrain with significant portions of their army.
Yeah, it's wordy. That's why
Yeah.
I think you can really just say no forest boxes and let things go from there. Granted, it is a more lax version.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm ready. I don't think I have your forest proposal, so if you have a write-up, we can try that too, and see how it.
I'm sure I've posted it in rule suggestions. I can find it.
Yeah, we can do that after this game. But yeah, I'm wondering, like, let's see. So if you just have units hiding in the forest, that's legal here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you could see like a wood elf.
I could, in theory, do a massive wood elf infantry rush and move it all through the forest as long as I'm attacking you. But what you can do is retreat to like the tower and wait for me there to come out. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm good to go. So let's say you're playing as Coast here, right? Can you deploy your entire army in the forest if it's not a defensive? It's not a defensive formation.
I don't see a scenario where Coast would do that and it's not, but yeah, I guess you mean like a crab rush through the trees?
Like let's say I call it an ambush, right? So like I'm just that player that's gonna be like, no, it's totally an ambush, and I'm going to kite with infinite ammo deck droppers for the whole game against, like, let's say chaos.
And then I think the admin can call that for what it is.
All right, cool.
But yeah, ready.
Cool. Let's say, well, okay, so there's other situations. If it is like majority dogs, let's say, and they're avoiding combat as they would normally, I guess when it comes to Coast, They could do that in open field anyway, so it's not like anything too crazy is happening there. So in this case, you have your spears outside of the forest, so that the majority is outside. Is the
Yes.
cool. And then otherwise, it would be a defensive position,
We'll pay.
presumably. Virtual Magi, you're saying you dig fortifications in the forest. Oh, okay, no, you're just more memes. All right, let's see here.
Take the ground.
All right,
Bretonia needs me.
so I'm wondering, when I get close to those spears, are they gonna retreat into the forest?
Tis done.
That might be illegal.
Hero of Bretonia.
Is it though?
Post haste.
Oh, maybe it's not.
Because like a normal kite build would naturally bring their
Doing our duty.
spears
No,
and range
but
units.
it's-
Yeah.
No, the normal kite build would usually keep things.
Battle ready.
Move the infantry retreating into the forest. No, wait. Yeah, the infantry would cover the ranged units that were retreating into the forest if they were to do that.
Yeah. Well, like, I would imagine at least some of them would be going into the forest, though.
All is aflame. Hadres. Serve and obey. Moving ahead.
Honestly, I'm not sure. If I saw someone
Your will.
take their spears and then pull into the forest, and I looked at the rules, I wouldn't really say that's a defensive position unless like they reformed into a box or something. I think like over time, if it's sort of agreed that that does count as defensive, though, that more or less solves that issue. See, now I'm wondering though, what do you have in the forest?
Bretonia.
At once. Knights. I am your man.
If not the spears, is it just like a hero squad or something for late game? Like just a late game Durthu
Something
chilling?
like that.
Our lands.
Could see that.
Moving. Aye.
Quickly.
Your command. Take the ground. Glory awaits.
Swiftly.
Okay, so there's now another thing
Bretonia.
that does get a bit vague, which is deciding how close you have to be to the forest before I feel like I don't have to
Adjacent
attack
is
you.
adjacent, like right next to.
Okay, so you're thinking like units touching the forest.
Yeah, like
I-
units touching the forest, but not directly in it.
That more or less makes sense, and that's pretty clear. It's not like explicit in the rules, but like a single message would be enough to clarify that for all admins. That doesn't bother me much.
March like it. Take the ground. We obey.
Let's see.
Looking for.
Swiftly.
It's a good thing that artillery doesn't
Ready.
shoot out a forest, but I guess the rules would cover that situation too.
Of the realm.
At least this rules that.
Cast the bow. Loyal and true.
Morgiana.
Knights errant. At speed. Attack. As you say. Forward. Noble knights. Moving at pace. Right away. Take the ground. For Ilker. At once. Knights errant.
Yeah, but so far this doesn't feel abusive at all. So I think the rules are holding up on that front.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Quickly, lads. Quick.
See, so that's pretty good. Although we'll see what happens in the late game. So you have suspiciously missing units
Attack.
somewhere in there.
To war. Attack.
Oh, stag knights. Okay,
Somewhere over the rainbow, Durthu hides.
Yes.
that's terrifying.
For the lady. At once.
So do I have an answer to stag knights? I have one
I do.
answer. Yeah. I haven't been taking care of them though.
by honor. Moving a base. Burn that king. Moving a base. Immediately. With haste. Lowy
Oh, I should get the Enchantress in there.
honor and duty.
That Mortis engine is too good to pass up.
Gairan, I call thee.
Knights errant. Full tilt.
Right, but so far,
Honor her.
everything's
Done.
pretty good. Oh, whoops. Except for my archers.
Knights errant. At once. Full tilt. Take the ground. Hastily. At once. Swiftly.
Alright, so let's see. What else do we really need to cover here? Outside of well, so we need to make sure that all standard forms of play are still legal, which I think the rule sets we have are mostly cover that. Let's see. At this point though, since I think you don't have the majority of your units outside of the forest, then you'd have to get out, but that's something that I wouldn't be able to tell as a player.
Yeah.
I think it's more
Also,
or
the
less fun
horses,
though.
the horses are still the majority of my army.
Okay. I don't really feel a need to do anything else though. But
Yeah, exactly. And once I'm out of ammo, I will have to like bring my forest contingent out. That's why I think it's a good rule, because forest camping is literally impossible. This is just a way to secure my lord while I kite.
yeah.
Like that's it. That's all it does.
Yeah. I think this more or less works out. Like there's only a few things that would be like slightly more cheesy, but like I'm not seeing anything that really bothers me about this, and I can stay far enough from the forest where I basically don't have to fight there. Although I think as chaos it could be a little bit worse for like air skirmishers, because I think chaos really does rely on catching the ground force if they don't have enough anti-air.
Yes, but I would not say like 4 eagles is not going to be the majority of anything, right?
Take the ground.
I'm thinking like Sisters of Twilight to snipe out casters though would be pretty annoying.
Yeah, but they'll do that anyway.
It will be more effective, I think,
Yeah.
at least. But whether or not it's like insanely more effective, I don't think it would be.
Quickly.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I might want to try out Wood Elves against Chaos in the next battle just to feel it out.
Apace.
Serve and obey. At once. Swiftly. Swiftly.
Under this rule set though, it is good that it allows you to protect units in the forest, just because they're not the majority, which is something people would naturally want to do if they're worried about getting sniped like crazy.
For the lady. As you say. Take the ground. At speed. Knights errant. Post haste. Weak haste. Break them. Apace.
I shall. Lakai Saipan.
What's this about Tower of Hoeth? Someone in chat is,
I am the Fae.
Post haste.
I don't know. Anyways, but okay, I think next I might want to try some Wood Elf builds. Maybe go for some air shenanigans, since I think air shenanigans and box shenanigans are basically the only two things that we're really worried about here, more or less.
With haste. Bows drawn.
Yeah, I'm keeping Enchantress far away from Dorothy.
Enchantress.
That Manticore is pretty scary.
Okay, Enchantress doesn't have much to fear from Durthu.
Really? Does he do magical? Oh, he does. Oh, would you look at that? I would not have.
She could probably hold her own, if I'm being honest.
Jeez, well that's terrifying for Wood Elves. That Manticore though is gonna do some work.
Orders, my lord! At once! Bretonia needs me! Knights errant! Smite them! At once!
Quickly.
Knightly valor!
Ever
But let's see, are there any other forms of forest use that are really problematic outside of boxes in your opinion?
Swiftly!
No. That's why I think, like in my write-up, it would just be you explicitly ban forest box and move on from there.
Cool. I think that does simplify things a ton. As long as that holds up, we're good. Earlier there was like a little bit of talks about how using the forest in ranged battles can be pretty punishing, where you basically have the missile protection from it, but I'm not sold if that's full on like abusive. We want to ban it yet, especially if you can freely disengage. Alright, but
Yeah,
cool.
I think like with a bit of wording, like to make it more streamlined, I think this rule is pretty solid.
Yeah.
But you wanted to test versus chaos, yeah?
Yeah, so same
What else
rule.
was chaos?
And I'm going to see if I can cheese out chaos with air by having ambushes instead of anything that could be seen as defensive. Let's see. So I have like a couple options actually. I think dwarves is probably a bad.
No,
Well-
you're either wood elves or... I mean, dwarves can do it too, but the thing is... So you said you want to set up like ambushes in the woods. I assume that means you have your units like spaced out far enough to... it doesn't... To me, it doesn't work because I think kite with air... Like, yeah, kite with air
Yeah,
is probably going to be more...
I'm gonna try out a kite with air style. And we'll
good,
just see how
because
it
it's
goes.
weird if you put your kite on the ground, it does nothing. Like the kite should be in the air.
Yeah. So let's see. What I have going is it's going to be trying as hard as it can not to be a defensive. It's not going to be defensive formation in the forest, and to prove that it's totally going to be kite. And we'll see how this plays out. Let's see. Yeah, one of these guys. Okay. All right. Well, I'm ready. But yeah. So, because the way to test it out is to find factions that rely on catching that box, or maybe like not catching the box, but catching the main army before they take too much damage from the air. And I think this is like the most abusive kiting example I can think of. We'll see. There's also Dactor's proposal, which we'll be testing out later. It's designed to be pretty simple by the looks of it, but it makes it really easy to parse. What's it? You can't hold positions in the forest except for ambushes. You may also use the forest to temporarily hide individual units, so casters and so on. And you're not obligated to attack enemy units in the forest. So more or less the same thing. Like honestly, a lot of these are just different wordings for the same idea. All right, have fun, Virtual Magi. Good night, man. And so can you think of any two factions that have heavy ranged battles? Like I know Coast and Wood Elves used to have it.
Yeah, Coast and Wood Elf used to have it. I think Dwarves and Wood Elves can still have it, but I think it's maybe more Dwarf favored now. Maybe. Yeah, no, it's just that Wood Elves have better melee options against Dwarves, so they don't take it as often.
Yeah. In a ranged fight though, the Forest would be pretty good. But because there's no in range fights, usually the other side doesn't want to catch them. They're just sort of trading. Then I think they'd be fine just getting real far away from the forest. But nevertheless, I got my ultimate cheese army here on Tower of Power against your chaos. I think so far though, at the very least, Bretonia is not going to be having a hard time versus
As long
elves.
as the rules, yeah, as long as the rules, basically, limiting infantry is like the bare minimum that you have to do to give Bretonia the win in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, yeah, as long as forest boxes explicitly are limited, Bretonia is not going to have an issue.
Yeah. All right, so I think I'm good to go. And then the question is for the chat: is this a defensive formation? If I keep it on the move, because this could be seen as kite if these guys were like glade guard, I think. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm ready.
Yep, ready.
All right, here we go. Okay, double manticore, horsemen. Alrighty. Oof, that's a lot of damage. All right, here we go. So this, I feel like could constitute a kite build, as I'm going to be trying to play keep away from your infantry. I don't know if this really helps though, unless you were going like a ton of chariots though.
Oh, chariots are so out of fashion right now.
Oh yeah. And honestly, the your anti-air more or less does the job anyways. What are those? Cavalry dogs. see. Let's see if I can get into position. I'm wondering though, if this is a wood elf build, do you think it'd be any different?
It would be a little better. There's
Yeah,
wood elf bonuses in trees, but not by much.
I'll have to try it out. I think the sacrifices to make it not a defensive formation though is that's the big hindrance here.
Axis out! War of vengeance!
Let's see, but if you have so I think you said what's it? Like a box retreating into the forest still counts as defensive, I believe, right? That's
Yeah.
yeah. And then that would more or less cover the other cases here. Also, I think I have battle realism on. There's no balanced power bar, but let's see. More or less, I don't think my rangers are gonna beat that. Let me switch to wood elves.
You do have battle realism on.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I didn't notice because it was so realistic.
Let's turn that off. It always
Now, Biblington makes a good point with 2 melee units. It might be iffy. Maybe. At the same time,
yeah.
Slayers are always called the Dwarven Cavalry.
Yeah. And if it's a wood elf build with like Glade Guard, they're just much faster. Or you could even go full on Way Watchers, but
Yeah. Although with so the build for Chaos is similar but different versus Wood Elves, and I think it's gonna be pretty maybe the same results. It's hard to say.
Well, let's see. We will see. The difference is that if I'm not retreating to the units in the forest, they don't have the usual ranged cover fire that they would normally. And that mucks things up for my air squad. Hey, FNG. Looking for finest cheese? Well, we're testing out some ideas, but your rules are holding up pretty well.
I like them. I just need some more streamlined wording and, like, yeah, for the most part, because it takes into account that the attacking rule is going to pretty much nullify the forest box in late game. And that's really where the strength of it was.
Mm-hmm. But
Like, yeah.
yeah, I think for sure though, having the wording tighter would help out, and we can jump to like the really slimmed down rule sets after. Let's see. So this needs to be a full-on kite, so I'm gonna do that with Glade Guard. Glade Guard are variants, right? I
Yes.
think they are.
You can take up to 8.
Yeah. Let's see, but I already have 5 things, so that's all my melee units, and then the rest is just cavalry, I guess, like a caster. And then we'll see how this goes. Let's see. Actually, Bill doesn't really need a lot of healing.
Yeah, I also think the poison change was silly. Like, from a gaming perspective, friendly fire from poison sucks, but in Total War, there's usually a focus on battle realism, and yeah, if you get hit with a poison dart, if it came from your friend or not, doesn't matter. You got hit with a poison dart. You're fucking poisoned.
Yeah. I feel like just the design of it might have to be worked a bit if they wanted to keep the thematics working right. Let's see. Just a little under how much gold I need. I think this is fine though. So this is legal. All right, I'm ready. It's the same idea, but we'll see if it's better or not. But yeah, at this point, the set's mostly ban out boxes. And the biggest thing is kiting into ginormous forests of, like on Tower of Hoeth and so on. I'd be interested though, one thing I might want to try out later, getting up different defensive formations and seeing if admins are consistent on what is the majority of their forces.
Yeah, yeah. In my eyes, it should always be unit cards, not value, but some might disagree.
It's like way more clear at the cost of like a little bit of gaming, but like yeah, counting money on units is, I think that's a deal breaker. Let's see, you're saying you'll catch up on what you missed later too. It was mostly Betonia versus Wood Elf tests. Another change you hate is the no minimum cast distance. Really? There is like a few people that really benefit from that, but
I'm okay with that one.
yeah, like having the cast distance was like pretty janky, I gotta say. As a quality of life thing, it helps a bit. That is true. Slann do gain the ability to defend themselves. I think one thing, a lot of the time when they do updates, they it will be a buff to the unit, but they don't do anything to counteract it, which can sometimes lead to some problematic issues.
Yeah. Poison units needed like a plus 25 cost increase across the board for that patch.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Nothing major, just like 25 gold to signify their more useful status.
Yeah. Because obviously it's a buff.
How will you do against this 20 stack?
Oh boy. We will see.
The other thing is, like, Sigvald. I mean, you might have enough to snipe Sigvald eventually, but it's kind of a big ask.
Yeah. I have a lot of ammo. I went Mask Glade Guard, so we'll see. I'm ready. But yeah, so this is essentially Kite is allowed to use the forest in full, so the goal is to try and abuse or use, depending on your preferences, the forest as much with my Kite builds and see how we feel about the games.
Alright, I'm ready.
Cool. All right. What do we got? Some horsemen. Sweet. Got some mirror guard. All right.
Quickly, now! Very well. Cavalry! We grow restless. Swift. Swiftly! With haste! Ever ready! It shall be done! Hurry! Shoot at will! For Athel Lauren! At speed!
Lighting the path.
Right! Orders received!
They probably should have taken healing if I was gonna go for Sylvan Knights, but whatever.
Now! Quickly!
What is your magic?
I went for Manticore summons because I thought I didn't need healing, but I changed some things up and now I do.
Orders understood. Sister! Kill them!
Glade guard! Swiftly now.
Oh, you had dogs. Not like this.
I always have dogs.
Nature calls us.
Should have known.
Ringing harmony. For all, Lauren. With me, sister.
At speed.
Order will be restored.
At once. By Carter. At once. Raiders of Athel Lauren.
At once.
Definitely should have gone healing for these Hawk Riders, but whatever.
Dauntless Hadres. Quickly.
Oh hey, nice Manticore summon. Looks a little feathered.
Oh yeah, yeah. I completely forgot about that.
Haste.
It's fine. It just doesn't have terror.
Terror! Yeah, the thing
Yeah.
you want to bring Manticore summon for.
Yeah, exactly. Totally fine. God, I cannot see my Glade Guard at all.
Yeah, fighting in the forest is just...
They are able to land their hits though,
To our enemies.
which
Moving swiftly.
does change things up, but the fact that it just flat out makes it harder to control your troops is something.
Like the wind. With haste.
Seek safety.
When ready. Swiftly. We understand. Blade guard. Go. We accept. Fire at will. Armed and ready. As you command. Hunters. Moving out. At speed.
Lighting the path. Duty observed.
Deepwood cavalry. For Athel Lauren.
Okay, so the question is, oh whoops, there goes my caster. Is there because obviously this is not a fun watch, but
No.
it depends on if there's actually enough incentive to go fully into the forest with the kite build. And I'm not sure about that. Because like in theory it should help you out, but the fact that it just makes it so hard to control your troops,
Ready to ride.
and the fact that at long range your missiles aren't hitting either
This instant.
is
The position.
not good for kite builds at all.
Lauren. Swift.
Also, does Wood Elf Cavalry, they don't get any downsides in the forest, right?
No, I'm pretty sure that all Wood Elf units get some bonuses in the forest. They're just different for others.
Ah, I see. Yeah, I think it. Well, let's see. These guys have Woodsman and Strider, so okay.
Season on war.
I see. I see.
Pray. Ready and able.
Bringing harmony.
Okay. Blade guard.
So what if I just went like heavier on the cavalry then, and then went for a normal kite into the forest instead of going for the air squad?
I think you'd suffer just as much from the Marauders, if not more, as you are now.
Really?
Blade guard.
Yep.
We will
At least at this version of the game.
It's from what, counter charges?
Yep.
I might want to try it out. Let's try out the various different kite styles. I feel like a bit of healing it could
I
work,
do
but
think air is something nice. Yeah, air is something you can do against chaos, but you generally want some meat as well.
yeah.
And there's the question of what can you bring that kills Sigvald.
Mm-hmm.
Straight away. Very well.
We'll see though. How are these Glade Guard doing? Just have two Glade Guard in the middle of the forest that are nowhere near the main army.
That got lost.
Yeah. Yeah, they got
Getting
more
lost
so
in the
separated.
woods.
Withdraw. Now. Quickly. Children of Isha. Attack.
This match though is fully legal though. You can. I'm pretty sure we agree on that.
Blade guard. Swiftly.
I think it depends on how people define defensive position, because I think, well, for starters, I don't think it's very efficient to put your ranged infantry in forests anyway. I am not convinced on that viability, but also whether or not it's defensive.
Yeah. It's like a bit of ambiguity. The main thing is whether or not the situation actually comes up. That's the main thing in my eyes. Let me try and make a more viable build.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. The more viable version of this build is a forest box with Durthu and a bunch of the viable version of this style is illegal, and that's what makes the rule work. Whereas this less viable version is legal, but like we saw, it's not quite as viable.
Yeah, I'm going to test out
I would probably
how cavalry kite works. Like, I'm not going to go for a box.
Yeah, I don't think you need Lost Sylvan Knights if you have like so much range. I think you just want to turn those into like 4 or 3 Glade Riders with spears and get more control.
Yeah. I'll try out more cavalry. See, what's your stance on Stag Knights, by the way, just in general in the meta? Do they just get beat out by Wild Riders?
I think they both suffer a bit to infantry countercharges like they do now, but I think I like the Stag Knights a little bit more. Not by much, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wild Riders with shields are still my preferred cavalry unit, though the ROR is nice.
Cool. I think my army's more or less set up. I do like the Stag Knights for the terror, but have an alternate form of terror. Oh, and I can use the Blessing of the Ancients on my caster.
Mm-hmm.
How nifty.
Something I've really liked is casting, like, if you go life, you can cast Stone Skin on your Wild Riders, and it's actually pretty useful.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Like,
so
their
the
low
idea of
armor
this
is a big
build.
weakness.
What's it? The idea of this build is that my cavalry should have a pretty nice advantage in the forest if I'm playing a classic kite build, and this should apply for all forms of kite. I'm just opting for Glade Guard this time, but like that's like the main benefit that I can see here, with the downside that my arrows are just not gonna work at long range.
Now, there is something I want to try.
Yeah, we can switch out after this one.
Oh, no, I mean in this battle.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Well, I'm ready. My formation's not complex in the slightest.
For Our Lady.
Yeah, so
Ready.
the cavalry should be getting buffs. I think F&G has it there.
For Athel Lauren.
And the theory is all the cavalry fights will be mine. These guys should essentially be unhindered.
Glade Guard.
Let's see, what is there left to test? Last update was 50 years ago. That is true, but I don't think there's been a lot of testing in general.
No, the Rakarth update was recent-ish, and it kind of smashed the game. At least the meta.
Oh, yeah.
Infantry countercharges. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's rough. Like,
That
I've
is
had
true.
goblins. I've had goblins beat Wild Riders
Jeez.
pretty decisively.
Yeah. If you in the worst case scenarios, you have extremely cheap infantry trading crazy well. To the point where if you have the micro to countercharge, spears are actually worse than cheap great weapons.
Yeah. Alright, ready.
Cool.
Blade guard! Understood?
Alright.
We understand.
Cool. What do we got? Oh, the horsemen.
Yeah, I'm under no obligation to attack you.
Indeed. And then the question is,
How do you attack me?
yeah, or also, as I kite back, I will eventually reach the forest, but this map
Yeah.
is big enough where, you should be fine on that front. We'll see. You're in no rush too, because I got no 360 skirmishers.
Wild riders! Swift of foot! Protectors of the forest! With haste!
Okay. There's also just a minor thing where it's when do you know when you're no longer not obligated to attack? But
Yeah.
I think it's more or less clear.
Wild riders!
Then Louis. Speed of Hadres.
But this is more or less a situation that I wanted to test out. We got the forest to my back, and the plan is to kite into it.
Defenders of Athel Lauren! Orders understood! Swiftly now! With speed!
Oh, I'm playing your favorite faction, the Wood Elves. See, I know there aren't a ton of Wood Elf players there, especially before their DLCs, but nowadays they're doing.
Yes!
I think we're seeing a lot more Wood Elves.
Quickly! Ever ready! Glade guard! Kill them! Kill them! For Elgrazor!
Oh, maybe I went in too early there.
Swift! It shall be done! Orion! Forever loyal! For Athel Lauren!
Quickly. Onward.
With haste! To battle! Quickly now! At once! For Turnus! Swiftly! Riders of Athel Lauren! Glade guard! With haste! Let's hunt! With speed!
See, Sigvald beats Orion, right? I feel like he does.
Riders! With haste! Hungry for battle! Straight away! Without delay! Quickly! With haste!
Of course.
Now! At once! As you command! For Lady Ariel! Hurry!
Yes. Quickly.
Alright, here we go. This is where it starts getting ugly. So the main benefit to me in doing this is that your Marauder horsemen are gonna have a much harder time, and your infantry might be slower than mine if mine can pass through trees.
Stay! Go! You have my spear! Swiftly!
By Ephura.
Onward! Death to our enemies!
Mage.
I'm noticing my arrows, even at medium range, they still get blocked pretty hard by trees.
Trees, yeah.
Yeah, so
Ride!
I'm feeling like it's pretty likely that kite builds just won't be incentivized enough to really go deep into the forest.
To war!
Just because it's not, even with all the wood elf buffs, the main benefit they get is through melee.
Blade guard. Let's hunt
Ooh, that's a good Hounds of Orion, though.
swiftly.
Yeah. The one saving grace.
As you say. Go.
But yeah, if ever one day this was a viable thing, that would be
Straight away.
like, I just imagine trying to cast this would be terrifying, but I don't think this patch is the patch for that.
To battle. Sound the horns.
So where's Orion? There he is.
At once. We are tireless.
I wonder if there's any late game situations where someone would want to go crazy deep into the forest in a tight situation.
Charge.
Because most of them involve missiles, which would mean you don't want to do it.
Go. At speed. Blade guard. Set swift. Hawks talon hunters. Your orders. Archers ready. For Canos.
Hey, look at that, your Marauder horsemen are slightly less effective.
That's true.
Still don't think it makes up for it, but I'm still wondering. Like, a lot of the times you would want to have some sort of like box set in the forest. I think the biggest thing that we've seen so far is that your Marauder horseman didn't rout off my Glade Guard there.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's like, it's the most mild thing ever. Still have dogs too, which will definitely tear apart my guys.
Advance quickly. At once. Understood. Quickly. To battle.
See, and I don't imagine a Way Watcher kite would be any different from this. So I think on that front, I'm more or less happy with these tests, and then we can
and
move on.
honestly, just playing in the forest is so much more annoying to control. I don't think a lot of players even want to do it.
Yeah, on both sides is the biggest part. It's terrible for both sides. Although if there was a big enough advantage, they would definitely
If there
be
was a
doing
big
this.
enough advantage, you'd do it.
If CA made it so that Wood Elf arrows penetrated through trees in entirety, that would do it. But that's not in the game, thankfully. So
It's
don't
only
have to
like
worry
the
about it.
first half second that an arrow can pass through a tree.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Even then, that's like, yeah, that's just not enough when you're fighting in full forest.
Yeah.
Ready and able.
See, I think Orion's dead. No, Madman, he lives. There we go. He's dead.
No, he dead.
Yeah, he's gone.
He dead.
All right, GG.
GG.
Okay, so I think I'm more or less happy with those Wood Elf tests. What do you want to move on to? Oh, Dome. Thank you very much. That is a pleasant surprise for me.
I mean, this is the one I'm most satisfied with. I think just a bit of tweaking with the wording. Were there other rule sets you want to test, or did you want to maybe try? I don't know. If I feel like VC is probably also
Yeah.
like the one that suffers the most to forest play.
Actually, I have an idea. On Langui, I can set up a formation that isn't the majority in the forest, but still uses it, and then take like an artillery piece to force it to engage.
Mm-hmm.
And then this would be like a situation where it's harder to call whether or not it breaks the rules or not. And then I'll just try to edge as close as possible to that. Because I think the most common edge cases we would see on this rule set is people just trying to edge as close to the forest as possible. I don't
use
think
the forest like a wall.
Yeah, I don't think kiting is viable, and in smaller forests, it's not going to be an issue. So let's go ahead and load up a dwarf build. Okay, so kite without boxes. I think so far it's seeming like that is not a problem. As long as there's no melee units in a boxish formation in the forest, no one's gonna have to go through a full-on forest kite. Let's see, how do I feel about this build? Interestingly enough, I do have to take an artillery piece just to force you to come to me. Otherwise, you can just not engage. Let's see here. Okay, so what? I guess, oh, I take a single bolt thrower. Don't they have bonuses in the forest or something? Or they can stealth in it? Yeah, they can hide
they
in
can
forest.
stealth in the forest, but I think a bolt, like an artillery piece defended even by nearby infantry units, I think would constitute a defensive position.
Yeah.
But I guess if it's... Yeah, there's no clearly significant portions of their army. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. So my build is a little bit less optimized for having taken the bolt thrower, but more or less I think this build will work. Okay, I'm ready. I'll look at chat in the meantime. Orion and Ariel is fairly well balanced now, I would say. I don't think no one's taking them as far as I know. You have any thoughts?
I mean, I still take Orion because he's cool and the Horn of the Wild Hunt is pretty strong. But yeah, no, Orion dies to a lot of the things that he would just ignore before. So that's not an issue. Ariel is not unbreakable. Yeah, he didn't lose his ward save near death, but what he did lose was general... Wait, no, he did. Let me...
Yeah, they
check.
nerfed it back to its
Yeah,
old...
they nerfed it back.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically, he also doesn't have the missile resistance that all lords do. He has physical resistance instead. But what most... Like, Malekith, for example, has physical resistance and melee resistance. Orion just has physical. I mean,
And ward save near death, but not a ton.
yeah. And the near death part is also an issue since his near death is what, 800 HP? That's pretty dangerous.
Yeah. There's a breaking point where you need enough time to be able to have him regenerate out of it. And the resistance is too low for him to safely chill at like no HP. So the threat of dying is too high, and that changes it. He did get nerfed, but he got nerfed back to his original Cloak of Isha value, so it's not a huge loss. Also, this rule set is not being used in tournaments right now. It is purely in testing. The one we have in tournaments right now is very wordy, although most people are using banner rules, which is very clean. So yeah, but we're looking right now to... The goal right now is to make it where the forest rules are simple, but clear enough where you know how much forest you can actually use. That's what we're working on today. Yeah, this one should be interesting though. Actually, it depends on which side of the maybe not. But the general idea is that I'm going to have a lot of my army chilling in the forest. And if I can make admins rule on it differently, that's a bit of a sign for worry, depending on what the breakpoint is.
You mean for like clear wording? Because in general, I don't think you're like different admins are always gonna potentially rule differently. I guess you want to decrease the chance of that as much as you can, but it feels unavoidable.
Yeah, but the hope is to decrease it. There's a few like situations where people will have different ideas of what forest camping is, and then it's just a mess if one person has more ability to do things than the other player, and then admins are sort of inconsistent. Because I think right now under banner rules, most people just opt to stay clear of the forest, just so that they don't rule break. But a few people will edge closer to it, and if the admins don't call them out on it, then they get a benefit from it. All right. So this formation. Okay, chat. Tell me. This is not. Is this majority in the forest? We'll see. This will be a good game to review later to see.
Do save the replay then if you want to review it more easily than rather than just going back to your YouTube videos every time.
Yeah, I've been saving all the replays, so. Alright, we'll see. But let's see here, like, I got these guys outside of the forest. And if that's illegal, how about this? Have people been finding forest use too strong? Yeah, there's like some cases you can fill in, Hadres.
Well, yeah, I don't actually find forest use like on its own too strong. It is specifically like boxes completely inside a forest that you must attack, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, like an elf, like a wood elf standing in a forest is no different than a skink standing in a swamp. And we allow that. Right?
Well, who knows? Maybe the next update is gonna have all the water terrain just dominating. Water boxes.
It's already really useful. It's just, my point is, yeah, it's just boxes, specifically boxes in the forest that need to go out. Most other play is like that uses the forest is not. It's fine.
Yeah. Although I wonder if there was more aquatics on different maps, that could have that could be pretty significant. The only thing is it doesn't block missiles though.
Yeah, I mean Oghamshard has a really Oghamshard has a nice swamp that Lizardman and VP can use.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, swamps don't provide cover from missiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely, if not breaking the rules, skirting them.
It's like, it's borderline. So it says majority of my troops. And we have troops that are facing the forest. Like, if you were attacking from the opposite direction, I think it would look a lot less bad. The fact that you have to, like, that the forest is sort of in the way makes a big difference. And then let's see here. I'll reposition a bit, since I think, well, I don't know how admins would rule on that, but if I edge out a little bit more, the question is whether or not this'll count, and yeah, we'll have to see. Alright, where's your breath attack gonna drop?
The dodge is good.
Yeah. I got nothing else to do while I wait. Let's see, what are my rangers doing? Nothing. But yeah, this definitely is a formation that I would want to send to multiple admins and just see how they feel about it based on the writing of the rules. Because like definitely someone's gonna go for a formation that's real close to a forest. That's gonna be a day.
It is a reckoning. How about them? Let's turn the tide. Fast as you're able. For the Hadres anchor. Move off. Plow through. Charge.
In terms of the dwarf box, you're saying it's clearly adjacent to the forest. Yeah, Hadres wouldn't have to attack it, but then I also get to use all the ammo on my bolt thrower. And then I can... There's enough forests here where I can basically always be in range. The question is, do blasting charges have the same timing window as everything else? They do! Insane. Oh, whoops, no! Good breath attack. So obviously in this case the main downside is that your large units can't attack from the front.
Yeah, one of my coaches already died. Well, I always lose a black coach when I take it.
Yeah. Until they get their big buff, they always do that.
Attack the axe! Fire at will! Dwarves, ready axes! Cut out! Long beards! Drain them! Hammerers! Shears! On my oath! Miners! Aye! Vengeance! Move! Yes, then! Bring it on!
Oh, you're targeting there. Nice.
Miners! Iron breakers! By the ancestors! Reach fast! Reach fast! Aye, to arms! Reach beyond reckoning!
Let's see. The thing is, with the bolt thrower, they sort of force you to come closer. Like, I would much rather have another bugman's instead. But I wonder if I could get away with getting another bugman's here. I feel like I probably could, just because of how many forests there are. Swamps might not block missiles, but let's see. Wait, really? Swamps hinder missiles? I don't think solar engines are affected by swamps. Do I still have slayers? I do. Okay, so question. If you saw a dwarf player deploy like this in like ECL, let's say, would you call that as a rule break? Let's say
Oh,
you
yeah.
are a player. Would you call it as a rule fight?
Well, yeah.
That is important to know, because there's also forest situations where people just wouldn't end up calling them, even if they are. It's just a thought.
Like, at the same time, I don't think I had to attack,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's basically, if you didn't have the artillery piece, I don't think I'd have a problem with it, because I would not attack and you would have to move out. But yeah.
It depends on how much like influence the bugmans have in this situation.
Oh, the bugmans I don't think had much influence at all.
I mean, like, to force you to attack if you
Oh,
pulled away.
maybe.
Yeah. I think like on a technical sense, I'm pretty sure I had more than 50% of my troops outside of the forest, but more than 50 were definitely using the forest and near it.
Granted, if I was also a player, I would not be playing BC. So there is
Yes.
that to consider about me personally.
I think the rules as is, if I read it, and it said majority of the forces have to be outside of the forest.
I mean, that's the kind of qualifier that people would try to exploit. I might actually just remove it and leave it on defensive positions. And that way, it's one of those things where the rules basically stays the same in spirit, but there's that one piece of text that won't be getting exploited. So you take that out and like play with the rule as the same, with it still being admin call. You just don't say significant portion of their army, because that line is what people are gonna go look and say, oh, I can abuse this. So you take that out, keep the rule the same, and essentially you're where you want to be.
Well, I think well, so how would you word it exactly? Or
I'd have to
think about it.
To think about it and put it into a Word document and edit it properly.
Yeah.
But off the top of my head, just remove the words significant portion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to try out Dactor's rule set?
Sure. Which one was that?
It's a short one, real short, 3 lines.
You cannot hold position of forest except to set up an ambush. That technically, that ends your forest kite, kind of. I mean, you have to hold position to shoot, and
yeah, like it would be 360 units don't have to hold position, but range units do.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I think forest kite though is like, I feel like that's a non-issue as long as it's not getting banned. Because like no one can abuse forest kite unless they set up a box somewhere.
But yeah, this rule kind of ends up reading as no standing still in a forest for too long, like for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, that's one of those things where people are going to unintentionally break that rule pretty regularly. And also there's the thing, basically this is one of those that you'd have to make more wordy, at least a little bit, to make it work. I don't know about it. But sure, what map and factions do you want to test with this?
Let's see. So we got a couple more good forest maps. We have like 8 maps that really have various forms of forest problems. I guess we'll check out Astalian Tomb next. Okay, and So the thing is, accidentally breaking this cannot hold position unless it's an ambush. We'll assume the minor stuff is more or less just ignored, like if your units rally in the forest. That's clearly not a rule break, even though it technically does. So I'm not sure. Do you have any ideas that you want to test for this rule set?
Specifically, no, but I guess I'd like to. No, nothing I want to specifically test. I can go wood elves and I guess still kite into the forest, but like you said, we've already tested that and it's not major.
Yeah. I think
So
one idea actually, I could go like a full forest box, and then as long as I'm advancing, then it's legal, right?
sure, but then like that's sort of the thing where it depends on what map it is. If it's like Blue Reach River, I think is the one that has forests connecting the two sides.
Yeah.
You can walk a forest box through, but then eventually you'd have to come out. Although this rule, its biggest Achilles heel is it does not have the words you don't have to attack units in a forest. So
Yeah.
yeah, that to me that immediately disqualifies it.
Wait, which part?
Consideration all like if we are making forest rules, they all have to have the stipulation.
About what?
You don't have to attack units in a forest.
Oh, well, this one has that.
Does it?
The third line.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was cut off by some. Yeah, it was cut off by the YouTube bar.
Oh, I see. Oh, well, maybe I should like raise this just a tiny bit then. So, yeah, so it has that. That one
That's fine.
line covers a lot of different situations, which is good.
Yeah.
And then the next one is having full on boxes. Is essentially the next one. Kiting isn't a problem, and then in the end, it's how close can you edge up into a forest with your box. In this case, it says you can't hold a position. You can't hold position in a forest. So, if you have an army that's 50% in a forest, would you say that's a rule break?
With this rule in effect, I would, because you cannot hold position in a forest, except I guess it depends on what the units are, because except to set up an ambush. Yeah, actually, 50% of the army. You could argue that it's ambush.
Yeah, like people will throw spears and slayers in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
So
that's actually pretty normal to do. Also.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I'll go wood
eh.
elves versus whatever you want.
Yeah, but anyways, let's see. I think the biggest thing I'm getting out of this though is that no one's gonna be kiting into the forest, which is a big relief. Let's see. Let's just try to find some edge cases instead of looking at specific rules, and then we can apply the situations to the different rule sets later. So let's see here.
Do you want to play chaos?
I can play chaos. You got ideas as wood elves?
Sure.
Sure. If you can if you find something that is legal in at least one of these rule sets, then feel free to throw it at me. Let's see. How do I want to play this?
I will say most infantry units can't really ambush? Well, I guess they can. It's just
Like,
really slow.
yeah. Dome brings up if it's 50% in the forest, then they are holding position. The problem with that is then like what you have a lot of accidental rule breaks if you go that route.
Like that line
Yeah.
would have to be expanded and made clear. I'm still not sure if I like it or not.
All right, let's just set up a quick chaos build. Then it should be good to go. I don't have a caster.
Where you're going, you don't need a caster.
Oh dear. Oh no, not like this. All right, well my build's very nearly done. There we go. Good enough. Let's see, F and G are saying one thing I learned from trying to write forest rules, how difficult it is to define ambush. Yeah. In practice, I'm wondering if, well, no, in practice it's mixed up too, because there's the close to your army ambushes, quote unquote, that break things down a bit.
Well, for me, I just say infantry units do not count as potential ambushers, and that would maybe help
Yeah.
with the unintentional rule breaks, because like hiding an infantry unit in a forest, it's more
You
for
see
the
it.
benefit is hiding the unit rather than how quickly the unit will jump out and attack something.
Yeah. Alrighty. Also interesting thing. You are going to be shooting at me a lot. I can use the forest pretty liberally just to,
For cover, yes.
yeah. Which I think is something that should be legal in a perfect world.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm good to go. Like, as long as they're not chilling there for the whole battle. Like, just with your whole army just to waste ammunition. But you don't have to attack them, so it's all good.
Marauder horseman!
See, Dome, you're saying you think it's a harsh wording. How do you avoid lapsing some units in the woods? Yeah. Like, you can have an extra bit that says if they rally, then it's fine, because most of the time when units are rallying in the woods, they can't really do anything cheesy for the rest of the battle unless they regroup with the original box. But that feels pretty rare. Okay, here we go. So one interesting thing, and I think this should be legal in banner rules right now. I can really just take my time advancing through this forest.
No, I think you still have to attack me, even though I don't have to attack you.
Yeah, the idea is I'm attacking your dryads in the far back.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's borderline territory, but that's what we're trying to find examples for, so should be good. The most annoying part though is that in some rule sets I'm also allowed to walk to draw this process out as long as I can. So I'm just gonna do that just for example. Because we see a lot of late game situations where people will walk to conserve stamina and so on.
I haven't.
Yeah. How do you feel about walking in general?
Don't do it myself, and yeah, I guess it's probably best limited.
Yeah, like it feels like in my mind, if both sides are walking, the end result is the game just slows down a lot without major advantages. But whoa, whoopsie daisies. Those are Sylvan Knights. But yeah, like just banning it entirely also feels sort of weird. Have to think about that. Man, that was a brutal catch.
It was an ambush.
Yeah, look at that. Ambushes.
We defined them.
Yep. And thankfully, these rule sets allow for that, because that would be the dumbest thing ever if that was a rule break and you lost the match because of that. Any rule set that doesn't allow for that is probably not working as intended.
For the Chaos Gods. Now.
This does change things a lot for Chaos, so having a forest that you can just chill in and use all your magic without your casters getting sniped. This feels like a case that's pretty borderline, because I am advancing towards the Dryads, but it's pretty clear that I'm using the forest just to be defended from missiles and to use all my magic. I forgot, my infantry needs to be moving slower.
Charge them! Run, you dogs! Marauder horseman! Now!
This could be a very long game.
I bring a tempest! Charge on! Master ablaze hunger!
Hey, Wild Riders. Ah, I saw you this time. You're still gonna catch me, aren't you? Because you get forest bonuses. No.
Kill them all! They will succumb! Putrefaction on them! Move out! I will see to it! Faster!
So if you don't have to attack when units are in the forest, does that mean you are free to cycle charge?
I'm free to cycle charge, yeah. I die as soon as something landed, but I can do it.
100%. But just interesting to keep note of. Does that mean that if anyone has like a bunch of troops in the forest, you can just, you know, single entity abuse as much as you want?
Like I said, you can in theory.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing to test. Am I allowed to switch targets that I'm attacking to chase your Glade Guard? Stall out the game as much. Like,
Yeah, just go for the draw.
yeah. Will this be a 1 hour battle if I'm just walking for the entire game and you don't want to attack because I'm clearly just chilling in the forest? This is like,
Yeah, that's kind of the big problem with the rule.
yeah. I think a lot of like, in the end, I think this is like more a case for the attacking rule, but I think having this as an example is good. Oops, I forgot. I need to be walking. This is peak Warhammer. Glorious. Absolutely terrible. But for once, I will be able to use all my winds of magic as chaos in this matchup. It just involves the longest cheese ever. Yeah, I'm not even attacking with my skirmishers. I'm fulfilling the attacking rule by marching towards Dryads. That's how bad this is getting.
I would say that's debatable.
It's debatable, but that's the point. It's like you know, This is an example to bring up for tournament admins to ask, would you call this out, or will it end up just flying? Because I could see this situation just flying for admins. Oh yeah, I forgot you have cavalry. Whoopsie daisies. Get out of there.
Very well. Runners on honor. What? Marauder horseman.
This is it. I have finally exited the forest.
For the blood god. Get them now. Moving. Going. Mortal fool. Bring us to carnage. Ha! Ah! Yes! Get them! Now! Lead us to mortal! Now! Faster! Chaos Knight! End them! Marauder horseman!
Oh,
Dead! For the blood god! Running!
I totally forgot my magic damage. It's fine.
Bring us to carnage! Charge! Your will! Tremble, mortal! What? Chaos sorcerer! Here's the orders! Marauder
Oh wow.
horseman!
Sisters of Twilight are down. They're on the ground.
Oh, they weren't supposed to do that.
To greatness! Your will!
Yeah, I was wondering.
Bring us to carnage! Chaos Knight!
Yeah, well.
Chaos sorcerer! Now is our time! Cleanse them!
Yeah, I don't think I'd enjoy these kinds of games if they became the regular. Although this map is universally considered pretty terrible.
Yeah, it.
My god's call!
There's a few maps that would actually allow this for chaos, and I could see this type of game being played.
For chaos!
So something it's definitely good to keep in mind.
Marauder horseman! Bring us to carnage!
Even if I was moving faster, the same general idea still applies.
You might be a little more tired.
We serve the gods! Corn demands!
Yeah.
Marauder horseman!
Sisters of Twilight made it out though. I'm surprised.
This world will die!
I think as chaos though, on big forested maps, there's no reason not to do this type of shenanigan if it's possible, because your casters just they live. They're completely unbothered and can use their magic as efficiently as possible.
Well, on foot, I think they're pretty unbothered in all cases.
With the Sisters of Twilight, it gets a bit sketchier.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I think the forest helped them a lot there, but in other cases, they can be pretty nice, especially if you have to. But in theory, you could just take one if you suspect you can chill in the forest long enough to dodge arrows until all your magic is used up. This is definitely a case we would want to avoid, though. That was not...
Yeah, it was not fun to play, to watch, to cast, and that's
Yes.
exactly the kind of thing that you should make rules against.
Yeah. And I don't think everyone would be doing that, but some people would.
Most people.
Like, once they start seeing that other people are doing it, it's like, your casters live. There's a very good tactical advantage to play that way, but
Although most, like, you can have your casters walking through the forest in most, under most of these rules, and just have your army be, like, walking adjacent to the forest.
yeah. In this case, though, it's like, why stop at the caster? All in. It's
all in
terrible.
for that increased missile resistance.
Yeah. All right. That was traumatizing. Cool. Nice.
Let's never play on that map again.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a common map in tournaments. Let's see, what else is there? There's River Amexon, which is the same idea but lesser extent, smaller.
Yeah, actually, River Amexon is probably the better version of this thing.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. All right, so we'll set map to River Amexon. I think in terms of examples, we've collected like a good amount, lots of variety. Let's see. Any other ideas? So we have like, you know, chilling in the forest to avoid missiles, which is generally regarded as okay, but when used too much, it's not. There is kiting into the forest, which is actually so inefficient that no one's going to go super deep into the forest. It's actually not too much of an issue, even though it could be. So something just to keep an eye on, I feel. But let's see here, what else? Forest boxes, which are universally agreed that no one likes and are universally not allowed. So what else is there?
I mean, we can play more on the F&G's rules. I think I prefer those. See if we can hammer out any other
Sure.
difficulties there.
All right. Let's see. So the biggest thing for me about it is that I want to make sure that admins are really consistent on how they determine different games.
I still think like cut significant portions of their army, and I think that's something that can actually be removed, and the rule would stay the same, because players should not take defensive positions within clearly defined forest terrain, period. And the thing that admins should discuss and wonder about is what constitutes the defensive position, not what is a significant portion of the army. That's like the kind of thing where people get cute.
Yeah.
So cut that out, and
we'll try that out. So we'll play under this rule set, except we'll cut out that specific section. And then I'll see if I can find some edge cases that border on problematic, and if I can't, then that's a good sign. So I'll play high elves versus wood elves, since you have a lot of range battling.
Yeah, FNG, we tested that earlier with wood elves versus Bretonia, with various kinds of, and wood elves versus chaos with various kinds of air kite and all that.
There we go. I crossed it out on stream. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, where wood elves go full cav and sisters and keep melee cav hidden, yeah, like that's like legitimate, because that's a full wood elf kite. It's not a box, and the idea of keeping the melee cav hidden isn't like an inherent advantage that like anybody can keep their cavalry hidden.
Yeah, a big part too is that when you don't have to fight, when you can choose not to attack when they're in the forest, like cavalry is a lot easier to draw out of the forest than range units.
Oh, do you want high elves versus wood elves?
Well,
I think this.
Yeah.
This is maybe one of those scenarios where, like, it doesn't like the forest rule doesn't. Maybe doesn't matter here. I don't know. Were you planning to use the forest, or should I?
I was planning to, like, you know, silver and box with like my back to the forest.
Okay.
I guess, like, because you're not rushing as hard, so like, you know, I could go like, as coast you don't want your back to the forest, so I wouldn't go that.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Like, basically dwarves is like, I might as well just stick with dwarves. They're the most often
Alright.
found
Actually,
by
on
forests.
this, I'd do Wood Elves versus Dwarves here. And you can see, because Dwarves can use the forest against Wood Elves to hide from missiles.
Sure.
And Wood Elves can use the forest to, but also hide from missiles. So it's entirely possible, like, we just both
Yes.
set up missile camps in each forest and trade shots ineffectively.
Oh man, what a match. It's technically balanced though, so
Yeah, we're equally ineffective and terrible.
amazing.
I
Alright.
don't know if I want to do that missile trade. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. So this set is you can't set up a defensive position within clearly defined forest terrain. So I will push that as much as I can and see how admins feel about it.
Yep.
Like the idea is I might have some slayers and some dwarf warriors in the forest. And I'm wondering if admins would be split on that.
I don't think they should be, as long as, yeah, as long as it's not like everything holding it. We'll see.
Yep.
It'll be good to have these games to show to admins potentially.
Mm-hmm. Like the thing about the ruling though, the general vagueness would have me feeling very unsure about the rules, and I would definitely ask about it after. Let's see. Man, I haven't played this matchup in so long.
I mean, in this case, in the ruling, the way I read it, to me, defensive positions is a euphemism for forest box. So to me, everything else is fine. Like slayers or whatever in the forest. Yeah, that's fine, whatever.
Okay. That's actually different from how I was thinking about it. I was thinking like more like how when I wrote up my rules, more of a like you know, if I have an artillery piece, then that's going to be a defensive position, because you can't argue that to be anything else.
But the artillery piece, like if the artillery piece is inside the woods, it's being potentially very ineffective. And if it's outside the woods and your defensive position, you take a defensive position inside the woods, or at least no, you take yeah, you just put units in the woods to like cover a flank because the flank is there and the woods are there. That's probably fine.
To the ancestor gods!
Hmm.
I mean, it's not like the enemy was gonna charge through the forest there anyway.
Okay. Well, the formation I'll be setting up, I think it's something I would, if I just read the rules without other context, I think this is something that I would not allow, but I think the way you're describing it, the rule set would be allowing it. But we'll see.
Ready to serve!
We shall see.
For Grimnir, vengeance! Miners!
Because technically,
For the
slayers in the forest, you can call them ambushes, but they are clearly there to be helping defensively.
our fire undimmed! Miners!
That's true.
Satisfy the grudge! Pay the ancestors!
Alright, how do you feel about this, FNG? This is a formation. It doesn't even have a significant amount of my forces in the forest. And it is most definitely defensive. But is it in the forest? And if I was the tournament admin, I would say yes here.
And in future replays, you can see my formation and see that a very significant portion of my army is in the forest, but I am not in a defensive position. I'm gonna go
jeez.
smash.
Okay. Interesting, interesting. All right, well, I'm ready. See what you got, 700 troops. So an interesting thing, you could just could hide most of your units and get your arrows of Kronos out on my artillery.
That is exactly what I plan to do. Let's
Yeah.
start.
Well, I'm gonna drop that artillery so fast, and then hide my organ gun in the forest. Which, if the crew is in the forest, is that legal? I think admins would be fine with it, but we'll see.
All right, ready.
Hey, drop, run, my poor Dowie. Ah, yes, the good old no wood elf army. Glorious.
I've seen this before.
Yeah. An empty field.
Or I should say, I haven't seen this before.
Yeah. Oh, whoops, there goes some miners. Thank goodness Arrows of Kronos is janky. Alright, so actually what I should be doing, I should have my bugmans in the forest and everything outside. Except for the slayers who do good against cavalry. Yeah, there we go. But like, yeah, like just having this formation right here. Oh, whoa, look at that. That's something, isn't it? Oh my goodness, they're coming out of the woodwork. You took the stealth ability. Madman. That's not particularly good for my slayers, is it? Oh, what are these miners doing? Get back. Alright, let's see here. Organ Gun's gonna die. You served well, Organ Gun. But this match was not for you. Sylvan Knights are gonna get healed up, unfortunately.
Yeah, but grenades are so powerful.
Yeah. Slayers actually, yeah, they didn't trade up, but they did okay. Okay, and then so the question is, was I breaking the rules by? Oh wow, the Dragonbacks, they won. But yeah, the question is, was I breaking the rules by having the bugmans in the forest? And I'll have to check up on what you're saying in chat, F and G, later. I'm trying to not die at the moment. Oh boy, those Sylvan Knights on the horizon, that's terrifying. See, it doesn't have to be half, it's context dependent. That's I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Because like I would have called it a rule break. And I'm pretty sure other people wouldn't.
I might have thought about it, but yeah, I don't think I would call what you did a rule break.
Like, I don't think it's abusive, but the rules as written, I was definitely in the forest defensively. That is like irrefutable. And then the question is, am I interpreting the rules correctly? But purely as written, it definitely has that going on. Oh, see ya, Biblington. Either way, I think you should have this match. Unless my Bugmans manage to kill these war dancers. What are their stats? 38, 31 compared to 41. I think with Flash Bomb, the Bugmans could actually be okay. I think you should have this one though. It's funny though, positioning near the forest for a lot of these games have given me more of a disadvantage than an actual advantage. Like, my minor's not doing as well. I'm wondering, oh, actually, yeah, if I deployed on the other side of the map, you'd be in a much worse position, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh, Biblington. F and G's the one that's leaving. I see. Okay, so now at this point, I only have Grombrindle left. He's in the forest. And I'm legal, and if you disengage, then I have to leave. It's more or less what works out, so no problem there, I don't think. Yeah, when it comes to melee units in the forest, just not engaging them more or less does the trick. I can't really think of situations where it doesn't. I've seen a few games though, like late game situations. I think in one of my tournaments actually, there was like 4 dwarf units left, all really beat up. One of them was an Iron Drake that was sitting in the forest. And the others were like dwarf warriors and longbeards. And then as soon as like the cavalry or mobility would engage the Iron Drakes, then the player would send in his dwarf warriors to defend them, naturally. How do you feel about that situation? And this is like a really late game situation. And also important to note, the alternative is that he would have to walk his Iron Drakes out of the forest, and they would get hit by cavalry as they tried to escape.
I mean, in late game scenarios like that, I think you can basically, it holds. Like, you don't have to attack units in the forest, they have to attack you, you'd have to leave the forest.
Okay, so like the logic would have been, so does Grombrindle, how old is
He's
the Reverse
unbreakable.
Blade guard? I think he should die here to 2-way stalkers, but anyways.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that more or less holds, like, because you can pretty easily disengage to get him out of there, and there's no real pressure to force you to fight it. So I think that more or less holds up in all the rule sets then. It was a little bit strange to see though, because like clearly he was like the intent was to put the Iron Drakes in the forest to bait a forest engagement. And I think some wordings of the rule too would make that illegal, which could also be problematic, but speculation. Grombrindle's gonna die, so GG.
GG.
Okay, so what you had there was a full army ambush, as I understand.
Yes.
Nice. And I think like no one would really have a problem with that. I don't think so. So
It shouldn't.
Yeah, something that should generally be legal. And I think in most cases, like in almost all write-ups of the rules, that would be legal. All right. As for my army, how did you feel about that? 'Cause I think you feel like that would be legal, right?
Yeah, I felt fine with it. Like, I can see where like the setup is, but like a forest box is only strong because all of it is in the forest. A forest box that's like 25% in the forest, 75% of the
Mhm.
that's not a true forest box in my eyes.
So like,
So like the defensive formation you had, it was fine. Like it was making use of the terrain, but not abusing the terrain. If that makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
If anything, like you said, deploying on the other side of the map, like it would have been stronger if you had set up on the immovable or impassable terrain on the other side of the map, your side of the map, and then like use that wall that doesn't touch the border, and that would have felt stronger, have been legal also, and like yeah, that's more using the terrain.
So like in the end though, why not just have the rules say forest box explicitly?
That's what I've been saying.
All right, all right.
My rule was always, yeah, you explicitly ban forest box, say you don't have to attack units in the forest, and let the attacking rule do it from there.
Okay. I think yeah, as
I
soon
do
as you
think you need
get
to be explicit when you say that, because it first of all explicitly forbids it, but also it allows basic use of the terrain. Like I don't think using the forest is abusing terrain any more than I think, like I said, skinks in the swamp. Like they get all of the bonuses, if not better, that the elves do as far as stats go. And yeah.
cool. So okay. I think basically once either me or you find your original write-up on the in the Discord channel,
Oh no,
then
I
we
think
can
we should
grab
add
that.
FNGs to explicitly state that, and it'll be
Okay. Sure, sure.
solid.
Because yeah, I think originally there was a lot of talk about how like kiting into the forest could lead into issues, but in practice, it just
Yeah,
is not.
we tested it. Like you can go back to this video or show replays where it's a thing you can do. It's not terribly good, and I don't think a lot of people would do it, but you can certainly try.
Yeah, it
Like
is
it's not an
possible.
invalid way to play in my eyes.
Yeah, and it's far from abuse. It's just it's not
No,
fun to
it's the
watch though.
difference between use and abuse. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's not fun to watch, but honestly, it's not like what is not fun to watch is your forest box slowly moving through the forest. That like that
yes,
was both a forest box explicitly and also really unfun to watch or play against.
yes. And then the attacking rules will have to
Mhm.
figure out a way to deal with that. But I think more or less that covers a lot of stuff. Lots of good insight too. So I think I'm more or less done on that front. I'm pretty happy. Do you have anything
happy to
left?
help out. Nope.
Sweet. Then yeah, go ahead
I
and
hope you got all the replays you need, and yeah, you can talk to various admins, see what they think about the games and
yeah.
deployments, positions, all that.
Cool. It looks like my webcam froze too, but perfect timing, I guess. So with that, I'll just let the stream catch up, and then I will end it out.